Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another edition of Stateside Weekly Market Report with Tim Robinson and Bryant Naylor. Bryant, your lights are flickering. We're going to just go with it. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. I don't know what's going on. They're on though. They just flicker. They're
They're on.
temperamental. They're a little temperamental today.
There's been power issues. I lost power last night. I have no idea why,
Yeah.
but I did.
I lost
So
power this
things
morning.
happening.
Not sure what's going on out there. We're back in America. We should have power.
Aliens?
Yeah, maybe.
All right. Whenever anything happens, I always blame aliens.
I
Anyways,
should blame like Russia or China.
we're no, that's not. No, we can't do that. But maybe. We're off the rails already. Today, this is week three, not technically week three, but week three of our now organized content provision. And during this week, every month, we are going to talk about the buying and the selling process because there is a lot to digest. And a lot of people just don't know how it works until they get into it. And we here believe that it's important to get your education beforehand so that you can be fully confident going into the process. So that all being said, today, what is a title company, Brian? Let's talk about what title companies do. They're a big part of the transaction.
Yeah, title companies. Title companies do a lot. They do a lot of the behind the scenes work. They keep everything on track, along with us and the lender to make sure we all get to the closing table. So they're in charge of things like the escrow funds. You send like the money that's involved with like your down payments and your earnest money deposit. Well, again, not your earnest money deposit. They also handle all your fees and your like figure out what you're going to do for closing costs, which we'll cover closing costs on another episode and figure out kind of dig into like
Yeah.
what all to expect when you're like what are all these fees that I'm paying when I'm doing closing. Um, Title search, I guess they do. They go make sure that the property is clear of what we call clouds on the title, which are just to make sure there's no liens or somebody else doesn't have some kind of ownership rights on the property. You're not going to end up in court trying to figure out who actually legally owns the property.
Yeah.
So, I mean, kind of, at the 30,000 foot level, those are some examples of what title company does. What am I forgetting, Tim?
No, no, I think that's good. I think it helps, for new home buyers to kind of view them as a referee of the transaction. They are kind of there to make sure everything goes smoothly. The money is held
Good.
in escrow. Escrow is something that is not commingled with other funds. It's where your EMD or earnest money deposit goes, which is essentially your down payment on your down payment. And like you said, they make sure they do all the legal work. They make sure you actually have clear title to that property. They record it at the end of the transaction once everything closes. They are also, I mean, the nuts and bolts of it as you go through the transaction from contract, when you ratify on a contract to the closing, they're kind of your point of contact for all things legal and property specific. So a lot of title companies will reach out and say, hey, do you want a survey on your property? Surveys are something that you can or don't necessarily have to do. Kind of depends on the situation. If you have acreage or if you have a really large lot, I always recommend it. If you have plans on doing a garage or an addition or something
or a,
like that,
or a fence or a
or a
pool.
fence,
Those are
exactly.
yep, those are kind of the main. Those are the main because when I get asked all the time, like, should I do a survey? It's like, I mean, are you going to put a fence in? Is it a big yard? You're going to put a fence in? Then you're going to want a survey. But
Right.
most of the time, like buying a townhouse in Arlington, you're not going to need a survey.
Right, exactly. So it's really property specific, but they are really important if you do plan on doing these things. And they can run anywhere from 1,000 to 5,000 bucks, depending on the size of your lot. But typically, it's about 1,000 to $1,500. So not inexpensive, but very important if you're going to put up a fence, particularly. So yeah, they are the people. So for our clients in particular, folks that are at posts overseas, a lot of times they are a very important piece of the puzzle. They also are responsible for providing the POA or power of attorney. So if you are signing from
Oh yeah.
abroad or anything like that, they will physically send you documents that you have to wet sign and send back to the title company prior to closing. And the title companies we work with typically provide mobile notaries, which is awesome, and that's one of the reasons why we use them, so that you
Mhm.
can sign anywhere. If you're in the States, you can sign anywhere. If you're not in the States and you have that POA taken care of and sent back, you can have anyone in the States sign for you anywhere. You can meet at a Starbucks in Duluth and have your sister sign for you, as long as they have that power of attorney. So we have chosen lenders and title companies that know the lifestyle of our clients, that make the transaction relatively seamless and easy. But yeah, I mean, title, they're a really important piece, and you're not going to hear much from them. You're going to get, access to your Qualia portal, some of our title companies use. You're going to get encrypted emails, and it's going to say, we need this, we need this, we need this. But as realtors, we typically do a lot of that for you, and you just need to make sure you sign when things need to be signed, and they make sure the transaction goes smoothly and handle all the money, and the money gets dispersed to where it's supposed to be dispersed, because it is kind of complicated. You pay a lot of different things at different times, and they just make sure that everyone pays what they're supposed to do, and any discrepancies with HOAs, or solar panels, or all this little minutia that can really be overwhelming. They make sure that's all cleared up and ownership is clear.
Yep.
So
And they
that's
also handle things like recording taxes and your property taxes, and they organize all that. Your insurance, like your home insurance, they let you send your home insurance information, and they put that in their documents, and that's part of your closing costs. Is that, that kind of information. So
Yeah,
yeah.
and even utilities like water escrow, like they'll make sure water ownership is transferred from the previous owner to the new one. All this little stuff, like you'll get a full at the end, typically towards the end, you'll get an Alta, what they call an Alta, and that's from your lender. It'll show all the closing costs, the recordation fees, and all, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Title and lenders are responsible for making sure those balance. All the fees balance, everyone gets all the money they're entitled to, everyone pays everything they're supposed to. Insurance, HOA fees, all these things kind of go back and forth, and they're depending on when you close in the year, they make sure everything is on the right side of the ledger for the buyer or
Yeah.
the seller. They're a crucial part of the transaction. And it can be, a little bit daunting when you see all these emails from title. And if people don't know what title companies do, you think you're just dealing with a lender and your realtor. That's what they're doing. They're playing referee and making sure everything's
I
going
think
smooth.
I've never thought of it that way. It's being kind of the referee. That's exactly what they are.
Yeah,
They're the referee, and then they sit at the closing table, make sure all of documents are signed, legally signed properly and completed properly, and to make sure that there's not going to be any issues after settlement occurs.
that's
You're
it.
right. That's phenomenal.
I'm
Phenomenal
right. I
information.
like hearing when I'm right, and I like hearing that I'm phenomenal, Brian. I appreciate
Doesn't
that.
happen very often, but
It,
you know,
it doesn't. So when I hear, I'll take it all day. When I hear it, your lights are freaking
my
me out.
lights
It's the
get
aliens,
quicker.
man.
I know.
Is it China? I
It
don't
might
know.
be.
I think it's the aliens. Um, I think that's it. I think that wraps it up. That is what a title company does. They are the referee of the transaction from contract to close. They're a vital piece of the whole process of buying or selling a house. You need a good title company. You need someone
Yeah.
that you can contact, someone with a direct number. Again, we're always big fans of calling people that are involved in the transaction, being able to get a hold of your lender, being able to get a hold of the title company, even on the weekends. We work with companies that will answer our texts on the weekends if something is urgent. That is crucial, and that's part of the level of service that we provide for our clients, so that they can be comfortable in this very expensive process of buying or selling a house.
And not all, just like agents, just like lenders, just not all title companies are created equal.
But
I have dealt with bad title companies that
for sure.
are not responsive. They're hard to get a hold of. They're abrasive. You can't, they think they know everything. You can't tell them what's wrong, what you disagree with. So yeah, like Tim said, like we work with a couple in particular that are phenomenal, and everybody, they always do things on time. They always do things right. And we stick with what works. So
100%. So there you have it, folks. Title. Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of, what are we calling this? This is the buying and selling process segment of the month.
that's it.
This is good, guys. We're getting smooth. We have 4-week segments. This is the buying and selling process. Today we talked about the importance and the details of how to work with a title company.
What's next
Um,
week?
Next week is going to be tips and hacks, we're calling them, in terms
Oh,
of buying, selling. It could really be whatever we want. Any kind of tip and hack. We're just going to talk about all kinds of stuff. Hopefully, some of it's useful, and hopefully, it applies to your process as well. So next week we'll be back with a tip and or hack, perhaps both. You never know. So until next week, everyone, smash, subscribe, give us a like, do something with the algorithms. Reach out to us if you have any questions. We're always happy to talk. I am Tim Robinson. That is Bryant Naylor for Stateside Weekly Market Report. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week.
see you next week, guys. Thank you.